But Tom, before we went to break, you were talking about the secondary, and I don't know if this completely excuses the secondary. In fact, it doesn't. I know it doesn't. But if I was going to give them an excuse, like this secondary, outside of Awuzie, this was their first time ever playing. All three of the positions, right? Like Cam Taylor-Britt played like 5 games last year, 6 games. Dax Hill played sparingly last year.
Yep.
Jordan Battle, DJ Turner, both rookies. So, like, can you say that some of the problems that the secondary had this year were just growing pains? That excuses some of the play, not all of it, but that certainly does explain some of the bad play this year.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, you have to get – and we live in a world where people don't want to have any patience with players.
Right.
I mean, they really don't. College, pro, we just don't want to have it. I mean, I found it fascinating, and this is drifting off, because I said all along about this whole Jose Barrero thing that Trace got into.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just go by track record, and we're not going to get into the whole Barrero thing today, but what he's doing now in the Winter League, and he's still such a very young man, and you have to look at the back of a bubblegum card. What has he done? This guy has hit and hit and hit and hit in the minor leagues.
Right.
Now, he hadn't done it in the big leagues. Okay, and you can say, well, he got his chance. You know what? He got 60 games.
Right.
At shortstop 2 years ago when he was 21, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you got to have a little patience with guys. There's no doubt about that. And when you look at just as far as just talent, speed, all those kinds of things, I mean, there's a lot to like about Cam Taylor-Britt and Turner and Hill and all of it. There's a lot to like. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, do you think that, they're ready to make that next big jump year 2 in essence? It's year 3 on paper, but 2 in essence. Right? Okay. Maybe they do. But if you're looking at the biggest needs for a team, and especially after the injury to Reeder, I mean, all of us kind of wondered, are they going to sign him to a long-term contract? Right. He's a free agent at the end of the year, right? They redid Hendrickson's deal, and now he's tied for the league lead, which, by the way, it would be a chance for the first time ever in the history of the Bengals franchise for a Cincinnati Bengal to lead the league in sacks. He has a chance to do it this weekend. He's had a great year.
Fantastic.
Great year. But, man, I mean, you just look at this team for next year, and you say, okay, well, where do you want to spend the money? Where do you want to put the draft capital? All those kinds of things. It just seems to me like, the defense has got to be a priority. It's just you got 4 of the linemen locked up. Now, whether you're high on Volson or not, I know he's gotten better as the year has gone on. But, again, there's another example. Everybody wanted to run this guy in the ground early in the year. He has steadily gotten better. Now, he wasn't great last game or the game before that. But he has shown improvement this year, right? Kappa and Karras, a little bit older. Obviously, Brown's here forever. And I don't think anybody believes. Although, maybe a year at right tackle, Jonas says, okay, I don't know how many people want me for left tackle. I don't know. Maybe they do what they do. Who knows? But because they don't have anybody right now that can back him up. So take his place tomorrow on the current roster.
Right. Yeah, that's where I said, like, the Bengals' biggest needs are a weapon for Joe, because 2 weapons are maybe leaving, right tackle, and then a defensive presence on the interior line. Those are the biggest 3 needs. Tom, you said that the Bengals need to address their defense. How do they do that? Because when I look at their defense, they've already seemingly got it kind of locked up. Like, it seems like they just got to roll the dice on what they have, in all honesty, because they got both their defensive ends and Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson locked up long term. They drafted Miles Murphy, so that's a third piece on the pass rush. Their linebackers are both locked up. All of their guys in their secondary are on their rookie deals. Other than Awuzie, other than another cornerback to help, which it seems like DJ Turner is going to take Awuzie's spot. You're right that the Bengals defense, if they want to have any success next year, has to be better. That's undeniable. But when you look at it, It's not an easy problem to fix because it seems like all the guys that they have part of their plans are already there. So how do they make it better?
Well, Steve Ross points out, he says the Bengals are going to have at least $60 million in cap space next year. How all that plays out and what you're able to do or not able to do in free agency, decisions you're going to have to make. Because look, all you can do is judge it by 1 year at a time. The signings of Pratt and Wilson were not good signs.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Right.
A lot of money.
$15 million, I think, locked up in both of them combined.
And again, I'm not going to get impatient because Wilson and Pratt have played very, very well to varying degrees in their NFL careers. They've given this franchise a lot of great moments. There's no debate about that. But if you just want to judge decisions made this time, roughly last year, and all of you laughed at me over and over when I asked the question, are the Bengals better than they were a year ago? Everybody laughed, wanted to make fun of it in the chat. Casey, you being the ringleader of all that. And here we are. Here we are. I kept saying they're not better. And here we are a year later.
Yeah.
And they're going to be watching games starting next week rather than playing games next week.
You're right.
Here's the thing, Tom.
I don't want to hurt my shoulder patting myself on the back on that one because I want to see them in the playoffs. People sitting around, Brunneman's the Ravens. I could care less about the Ravens. I don't care about the Ravens. The only dude on the Ravens I root for has been hurt all year long. The rest of them, you can have them all. Dobbins.
I'll say on behalf of the chat
Gamer.
that us teasing you on that take was wrong. We were wrong, Tom.
No, you weren't wrong because everybody was asking the question, and no, Everett sitting here saying Tom knew Burrow would be hurt. Of course I didn't know Burrow would be hurt. But would I be out of line thinking he might get hurt? When's the last time he played in training camp? The next time will be the first time.
Right.
So, I mean, believe me, Burrow's unbelievable. I love Burrow. So stop. But I'm just saying I'm going to be really interested to see what they do because I think they have some smart people down there. I think by and large they've made, and you're right, Casey, about the Orlando Brown thing last year. That came out of nowhere. That wasn't even remotely a rumor on the radar.
Right.
So the Bengals are the kind of franchise where they keep everything close to the vest, kind of like the old Walt Jocketty days when he ran the Reds. You weren't going to open the paper and read about rumors coming out of or a source inside the Reds organization. That stuff doesn't happen with the Bengals. Didn't happen with Brown. It won't happen the next go-round with whatever it is they do. And with as much money as theoretically they could have under the cap for next year, they might go out and make some enormous splash or two.
What's funny about all the moves that the Bengals did last year is like all of the replacements that they had, other than the safeties. Safeties were not better. But like Tanner Hudson, if you look statistically, had pretty much the exact same year as Hayden Hurst. And that's only playing half the year. Like yards, touchdowns, receptions, almost the exact same as Hayden Hurst. I think Chase Brown to Samaje Perine, was there a whole lot of difference there? Honestly, I know Samaje played a lot more. I know Chase Brown didn't come on until the second half of the year, but
The last 4 weeks, yeah.
yeah, I'm really not. I'm not beat up about letting Samaje Perine walk out the door. Where else did the Bengals? I mean, it was safety, right? It was two safeties, tight end, and a running back. Obviously, they missed on both safeties, but the reason that the Bengals were not better this year wasn't because of the guys they brought in versus the guys that they left. The reason that they weren't better this year is because the guys that played on the field didn't play as well as they did last year, and there was a lot of guys, Joe Burrow, that didn't get to play the entire season.
That's the biggest one, by far.
So it's just the guys that were in the house last year that are still in the house just didn't compete. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, major step back. Awuzie wasn't the same cornerback that we saw in previous years.
Yep.
Sam Hubbard, though he started out red hot, whatever. The offensive line pretty much was the exact same, I'd say, was mediocre. Wide receivers, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd took a down step. So it was the guys that were here last year that were back that didn't play as well. It wasn't so much the moves that they made to address their team.
Okay. Colton in here says the safeties weren't a miss. I don't know how anybody can think that.
Jordan Battle's the highest graded rookie safety.
I understand all that. That's fine. I mean, I watch the games. They can tell me all about the numbers and the stats and all the rest of that stuff.
Right.
Half the time I see him chasing guys around.
Tom, when you look back at the season, obviously it's not a success, but is it a failure? Is this, when you look back at this season in 5 years, will this be a failed season?
I think it's hard to say. It's a good question, and because I want to ask myself that question, but I think because of just Burrow, it's hard to really say it is. When you combine the schedule along with one of the top three, where would Kansas City be without Mahomes?
Yep.
Okay, where would, pick anybody, where would Dallas be without Dak? Right?
Right.
Where would, just go on and on and on and on and on. So it's probably, where would the Bills be without Josh Allen? Okay, so it wouldn't be fair to say that this season has been a failure because the best player on your team was either not healthy or he was just gone, period. Most of the time when he did play, he was hurt. Now, you could get into that whole debate on whether he should have been playing early in the year, and we've already had that debate. And we're never going to know the answer, so why debate it even more? But the bottom line is, they were right in the playoff hunt with Burrow getting healthy and playing well. That night in Baltimore, they were on the win streak, had the hiccup against the Texans, but they were playing well. He goes down, got a little lightning in a bottle there from Browning, who did everything he could to play as well as he could. You come up short. If they win tomorrow, they're going to get, there's going to be a team in the playoffs that had one more win than they had.
As a guy who
or less.
As a guy who roots for the Bengals, there's a scenario in the AFC playoffs where a team that's 10-7 doesn't make the postseason.
Right.
Like if the Bills lose and don't make the postseason, they'll be 10-7 and are out. Would that make you feel? Would that make you feel better knowing, because that was the kind of the goal that we targeted when the Bengals got back in the playoff chase? It's like, let's get to 10-7. They get to 10-7, got a good shot at making it. Because that personally, like, knowing that even if we did everything that we wanted to do, which was get to 10-7 with Jake Browning, that it wouldn't have been enough. For some reason, that gives me quote unquote solace.
Okay, there you go. To answer my own question, I think it's a failure from only this perspective. If and this especially comes true if you lose on Sunday. If you don't win a divisional game in a season, it's a failed season.
Yeah,
that's fair.
It's a failed season.
That's a great point.
And I can look at I know the schedule's impossible. I know we play in the world's toughest division. I know we lost our quarterback. We lost our both our top wide receivers. We lost half our defense. I get all of that. If you can't come out of this season with a divisional win, it's a failed season. Despite everything, despite having a winning record, despite whatever happens the rest of the way, if you can't beat the Browns on Sunday, it is a lost season. 0-6 in the division is still unacceptable, no matter how tough it is.
Yep.
It's always tough sledding, but eventually you got to win a game. And you have to win one against the Browns, Steelers. And the Steelers, look, I think the Steelers are a decent team, but let's not pretend that team can win a Super Bowl. Nobody's under any illusions that Mason Rudolph will be, when you close your eyes at night, they can picture Mason Rudolph hoisting up the Lombardi trophy.
The bottom line is he's 2-0.
That's true. The Steelers again, I credit them. They still can get to the postseason, but the Bengals not coming away with a win against them is not great.
Derby Stardom says, I actually think Zach Taylor's gone if we lose to the Browns in no division games. There is zero chance of that.
Oh, what a great point by our host, Tom Brenneman. And boy, oh boy, can that Elliott be a little rascal. Well, if you like that video, please subscribe, like, comment, so more people can see it. Yeah, there's a video over here. One right here, too. See ya.